Hi, welcome back to Keep It Dirty, a podcast where my guests share their life living functionally and sustainably, and the why behind their experiences navigating through our ever changing environment. And I am your host, Leslie Dowling. I'm a corporate speaker sharing how one can jumpstart your life with increased revenue and productivity through restorative health techniques. And today, it's really a pleasure to welcome my guest, Freya Oostingh. She is a functional nutrition therapist. So thank you, Freya, for being here. I'd love for you to share with everybody some of the other things that you use in your practice and a little bit background with your story.
Okay, my pleasure, Leslie. Thanks for having me. Okay, so I will tell a little bit about my story and the events of maybe the last 10 years. It's been a little over 10 years. I sure as heck never saw it coming. I thought I was living a pretty healthy life, always interested in fitness, stayed fit, thought I ate pretty well. But I went for a Botox shot, and immediately after the shot, it was a very small dose, not even a typical dose, just right in for the glabellar lines. Immediately after the dose, I started to have very bizarre neurological symptoms, tunnel vision, just felt weak, faint. It just felt really weird. Somehow I recovered. Driven to New York. I drove home 2 hours and I just felt off. And the symptoms went on for some time. And ultimately, I ended up with botulism, which is a rare side effect from Botox. If you watch the TV commercials, it's termed spread of toxin effects, which is basically a euphemism for botulism, which is a horrible neuro toxic illness. Basically, your nerve synapses can't communicate with each other very well, and you become very weak. I had a terrible time just chewing and swallowing my food. Breathing was just very laborious. You can barely have the strength to move your lungs. And I certainly couldn't drive a car. I think they mentioned that on the commercial. Don't try to drive a car. Well, who would think that you don't have the strength to turn a steering wheel? But I did not. So it was pretty awful. And it went on for some time, many months. At a certain point, I could walk a little bit, short distances, not far. I would go out in my yard just to be outside and sit and pick some weeds and so forth. I ended up with a rash all over. I didn't think much of it. But then I started getting progressively weaker and weaker, lost the ability to walk. I was in a wheelchair for a while. Went down to UPenn, saw a doctor there, and he said, "Oh, Botox doesn't cause botulism." Well, it turns out that it's on the label of every single box. It has a black box warning because it does cause botulism. But I ended up, when I came back from UPenn, I climbed up the steps to my room and I got in my bed and I became completely bedridden. I was so weak that I couldn't move. I required total care. I had to have a caregiver come in and take care of me. I couldn't get out of bed by myself. It was pretty awful. I had no idea what was going on. I mean, I literally could not even hold my head up or sit up. And it just didn't seem like I was getting better at all. It went on and on. I became very depressed. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to move again. I felt trapped in a body that I couldn't understand. And at one point, I was able to make an appointment with a neurologist in Richmond, Virginia. My husband and son carried me down the steps, loaded me up. My sister came and picked me up and drove me down there. And then they, her and the doctor picked me up, put me on the table. She examined me. She said she had no idea whether I would ever get better again, but that she had surprisingly, with her patients, found that those patients who just believed and had faith somehow that they would get better, somehow she had seen miraculous healings. So, and that was a bit of a turning point for me. I didn't mention earlier in the process when I was at my absolute weakest after I'd come back from UPenn. I had a near death experience, which was not anything that I ever in my life, actually believed in. I was raised in a very kind of intellectual type family. We didn't believe in God or anything spiritual. We just, when you died, that was it. But I felt my spirit start to leave my body and move towards something that was just incredibly, incredibly beautiful. And in an instant, everything changed for me. And this is a very common story for people that have had near death experiences. I mean, I just instantaneously realized how ridiculous to think that there wasn't a spirit inside. And I came to see our body more as a vessel for a spirit. I also understood in that moment that this life is just very transitory and very brief, and that there may be something, place where our spirit came from and goes that's more long lasting. I mean, it just totally changed me. Believe me, I I would never have thought these things before. It had to happen to me for me to realize it. But somehow between that and the doctor telling me just to have faith in my recovery, I started to make a connection to like in the intelligence of life, or just I lay in my bed. I couldn't move for it was ultimately about 8 months. But I could look out my window and I saw the beautiful trees and I heard the birds. I started to identify every bird song, and just made that connection with life that kind of started to pull me back to life. I still wasn't getting better. I could do some research on my cell phone, tipped on its side, not because I couldn't hold it up. And I started to feel like I was toxic, neurotoxic in some way. So I read about activated charcoal, and I thank God for Amazon. I ordered lots of charcoal powder, and I would put it in drinks of water, lots and lots of it in water. And after about 8 months of being completely unable to move, I could start to sit up for the first time after about a month of drinking the charcoal. So clearly it was drawing something out of me. And then at a certain point, I had an acupuncturist come in and she said, "I think you look like you have Lyme disease." So it turns out when I got that rash, I apparently had been bitten by a tick. Once again, they carried me down the steps, went to a doctor. He tested me, and I was double positive CDC for Lyme disease. So he wanted to put a neck portal in and give me intravenous antibiotics, but something told me no, that's going to kill me. I was so weak. So I just started doing herbal medicines, and it was a long healing process. When you've been bedridden for about 8 months, you're literally just bones and skin. It's amazing how quickly the muscles go. So it took a long time for me to walk again. This whole time I was researching about the importance of food and diet. I changed my diet. I cut out inflammatory foods like gluten. Whereas before I was definitely a gluten and sugar aholic. I had to cut these foods out. I started, following as much as possible. I couldn't make the food yet, but I would ask my husband to bring me more, salads, more nutrient dense food. And I started taking a bunch of supplements. And slowly, I was able to recover my health. And then I just kept going and going and going. And now, I guess I'm in the, kind of phase of extreme biohacker. So I do all kinds of things. I just keep supporting my health, but I experiment on my health myself so that I can share what works for me with clients. So some of the things that I like to do now, I'm definitely into cold plunging. I absolutely love it. I started with the cold showers. Now we have a cold plunge tank. But these are things that are kind of more after you've gone through the initial phases of healing for supporting your mitochondrial health and really getting your mitochondria the energy factories of your body up and running. I had very poor energy for a long time. So I feel like at this point, I do a lot of breath work, different kinds of breath work. I take a lot of more advanced supplements for mitochondrial health. But I mean, it is a gift. And I always say it was a gift in strange wrapping paper. Um, it was horrendous to lay there and not know, to have your life basically stripped away from you, not know if you're going to get better. But at the same time, what I got from it was, you know, I would never give it back. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day and I said, if you gave me $1 billion to take away that horrible experience, I wouldn't get it back, because I learned so much. I found a sense of purpose once I became better myself. I went to school and I now see clients. And I love what I do, and I love helping people, and I love how my approach is different from the traditional medical approach where people come in, they're just in and out. There's no real interest in the person. I went to the doctor the other day and he was a nice guy and everything, but it's like, God forbid you stray from the script, because then he's not gonna have enough time to go see the next patient. People who are sick, they need to be heard. If you could just make the connection with them and let them be heard and offer some kind of, positive support. And that's not hard to do, because I've learned, I truly learned just the miraculous capacity of a body to heal. I mean, it's just amazing if you give it what it needs and you remove the things that are bugging it, which for everyone is different. Everyone has their own puzzle, and you have to try to find the pieces to help them heal. It can heal. I never thought I would be in as good a shape as I am now, which in some ways is the best shape of my life. I thought, okay, maybe the best I have is to be in a wheelchair, but at least I can get out of bed. So I truly, and with my clients too, just by making some dietary changes within weeks, literally symptoms that they've had for years, I see it over and over and over, that they didn't even attribute to certain inflammatory foods they were eating or to their diet, are gone. Problems they've had for 20 years. It's just amazing over and over again how life knows what to do. And once again, that's that intelligence. Life has such an intelligence. It's amazing to feel that. You see it in nature all the time. If there's a forest fire, it knows what to do. Forest knows what to do to regenerate itself, and our bodies know what to do if we just, allow them to do that. Unfortunately, we live in a world that's full of toxins, and people, eat a diet that's not food, which is just crazy. That's something I think about and deal with all the time. It's just that massive disconnect that we have from the way life is and the way life functions. So I look at health definitely as ecosystem health, where each one of us is an ecosystem filled with countless life forms and many, many times more microbes, microbial cells than human cells. And it's the parallel is the ecosystem outside and around us. But where you see how a damaged ecosystem, just nature starts to fall apart. The web of life is no longer working the way it should be. You could start to get invasive species moving in because the native species are dying off. The same thing happens in our body. We take tons of antibiotics, we eat, and our microbial ecosystem becomes damaged, and then we get invasive species, yeast, things like that cause a lot of problems. So I guess my approach now to working with clients is just, like I said, it's a puzzle, and you have to put the pieces together, what's causing the problem. But I look at first of all, everyone is individual. And second of all, as an ecosystem, and where the problems are, how a lot of that starts at birth. whether if they're born by C-section and they're not even populated with the, microbes from the birth canal, things like that. But you can see that it just, when I talk to people, I always do a health history timeline, which takes a while, but you get a lot of information. And so you can see where once the ecosystem starts to go wrong, that there's a setup for autoimmune conditions and all kinds of conditions, basically. So I look at that part of the picture. I look at diet, which is huge. About 80% of the average American diet now comes from ultra-processed foods, which are not foods. It's just insane. How did this happen? That a species just stopped eating the foods that their body needs, that contain the nutrients that, every single structure and every function of our body runs on the nutrients from the food that we've been eating for 2 million years and that our body recognizes as food that contains the nutrients it needs. So every single thing you put in your mouth, either your body is going to recognize it as, okay, this is what I evolved with for 2 million years, I know what to do with this, or it's going to be something that humans made in a factory somewhere that's loaded with additives and emulsifiers and preservatives and flavorizers and God knows what else. That's not a food. And if your body doesn't recognize it as a food, it basically ends up being a toxin. And now your body has this problem of, of detoxifying it, storing it. It can be stored in adipose tissue. That's problematic. So once again, ecosystem health, our diet, the impacts of our diet, and there I see just huge improvements. Like I said, within a matter of weeks, I ran a 5-week program called Restart, where I basically put people on kind of an anti-inflammatory diet, and it's just amazing from the beginning to the end of those 5 weeks, the changes that, and I also always do testing so I can kind of document and see for myself. But symptom resolution is usually anywhere from half their symptoms are gone to 2/3 within just 5 weeks. And then detox is also a big issue for a lot of people. But by changing your diet and eating, nutrient-dense foods, your body knows how to detox. It will already start up kind of some detox processes, but sometimes you need more on top of that. And then the last big piece that I just find is so important for everybody, and I feel like it's getting more kind of focused, but still not as much as it should, is just nervous system balance. How our nervous system works. I mean, we're basically the managers of our nervous system. And when I ask a lot of my clients, like, do you know about the nervous system, sympathetic state, fight or flight, and parasympathetic, rest and digest, I would say 70% of them don't even know. So then you're just at the mercy of whatever your nervous system is going to do. And believe me, in this day and age, it's going to go into fight or flight. So basically, you're either in, it only has 2 main branches, that sympathetic, fight or flight, parasympathetic, rest and digest. And it's like 2 different roads. I always say you can drive down one road or drive down the other, but you can't drive down 2 roads at the same time. So at any time, one or the other is going to be dominant. And depending on which branch is dominant, it's going to send a different message to every single cell in your body. It's kind of the command center. So every single cell is going to get a different message through hormones and chemicals as to how to respond at that time. If you're in sympathetic state, the blood is going to move away from your periphery, your digestive area. You're not going to be able to digest. You're not going to make your digestive secretions. The blood's going to go to the periphery. You're going to, to give you the energy to run away, to deal with the emergency. So that's your sympathetic is your emergency mode. And a lot of people, just because of the way life is now, if you're busy, I also call it thinking mode. Just busy, stressed, stuck in traffic, cell phones going ding, ding, ding. You're looking at the news. You're constantly barraged with information, even at the gas station. I mean, it just never ends. you get stuck over there, and it's meant to be just a state where you're acutely handling an emergency, but we end up being there all the time. It's very damaging to health. So that parasympathetic, or rest and digest, is basically the branch that you would digest your food in, that your body regenerates, tissue regenerates. It's your healing state. You detoxify in that state. And so you need to be in your healing state most of the time for your body to function optimally, and also to be able to digest. So a lot of people are just, eating in their car, they're walking in their house after a busy day of work, my husband, sorry, standing at the counter shoveling stuff in. Well, you're still stressed from work. You haven't taken the time to kind of ease your way into that sympathetic state. There's no way you're going to be able to digest your food adequately, because you have to be in parasympathetic to make the secretions, in your mouth and your stomach, your intestines, to adequately break down the food and absorb the nutrients. So there's also an epidemic of digestive health issues, and I do attribute a lot of that to just people being in stress mode most of the time. And you have to be aware. You have to constantly monitor throughout the day, in a way, where you are. That's part of being the manager, of your nervous system, of not just letting it happen. And so another quick story, and it's just trauma will put people in that stress state. So when I was 14, I was walking on some train tracks. I just happened to turn around. Train was coming around the bend. And I went to run, carrying all my school books, went to run off, tripped, and was laying on the tracks as the train was coming. My books were all over the place, but as I hit the tracks, I fell on my spleen and ruptured my spleen. Somehow or another, I picked up all my, I didn't pick up all my books. The train went by. It was a big mess of stuff all over. Went to pick up my books. I very quickly went into shock. Thank God I was close enough to my home. My mom was at work, but I went across the street. A neighbor was there. She called an ambulance for me. But so I was 14. For most of my life, it just happened. I went on with my life. I didn't think much about it. But that and any kind of trauma literally ramps up your nervous system. If you don't know, if you've had trauma, you're going to have a person that has a ramped up nervous system. And then it doesn't take much for you to, ramp up even more. And that's where it gets ugly. Anxiety, panic attacks, things like that. So that was a piece of my puzzle when I had to recover from my illness, is that I was so terrified by everything that happened. And it was already on top of a nervous system that was so ramped up that I would literally, go into extreme sympathetic or parasympathetic, which is basically freeze state. So I'd literally collapse. I was just everything was so scary, not knowing what was happening to me with botulism and the Lyme and stuff like that. So I truly, at a certain point, I came to the understanding, I realized, okay, I have, what happened to me and at this point, 40 years ago, has affected my whole life, and I didn't even know it. And that's why it's so important to do the work, to look at the whole puzzle and see all the pieces. And I would not hesitate to say that anybody with kind of a complex chronic type illness is going to have some neurological involvement, and they're going to need to work to get themselves into that healing state. Number one, because being sick long term is scary, but number two, there's an underlying, I think, tendency to, maybe for hypervigilance or kind of an extreme sympathetic type state.
Yeah,
So,
that's really
so I do
fascinating.
a lot of things. I mean, in addition to eating well and exercising and breath work, things like that, I've incorporated it all into my day. So I don't really think, oh, it's taken this much time. But when I look at it, it does. But I do things to try to calm my nervous system. I start my day with a morning reset. I go outside. I like grounding, be just walking barefoot on the earth. I do it year round, even in the winter on the snow and ice. It feels great. But it's very important too to get we used to get the electrons from the earth. That used to be part of what charged us up, just like sunlight. And now we wear rubber shoes and we don't get that. But I go out and I say a few things that really calm my nervous system. And if you don't mind my sharing, I think it's important for
Yeah, yeah.
everyone to
Because
come.
then I have a quick question for
Yeah,
you about the spiritual, but I want to hear this. This is amazing.
yeah.
Share it for everybody
This
to
is what,
hear.
so I tell my clients, I do recommend that they all come up, with what works for you. A few things in the morning to help reset your nervous system. So I walk out, I look up in the sky, I just feel the immensity of life, and I say, thank you for this life with its challenges and its joys, because I know there's always going to be challenges. I've been through hardship and pain and loss in the last few years, and we all do, and it's always going to be there, but there are always the joys too. So thank you for this life with the joys and its challenges. Fill me with light and wash out the darkness. I mean, because there's always dark thoughts, and I literally just imagine light pouring through me, and that whatever darkness, whatever, this uneasiness I have from the night or dreams or whatever, I just imagine it going down into the earth. Then I say, fill me with love that I might pass it on to others, because I really do feel that in a way is our purpose as human beings. We're social beings. I feel like we're connected to each other, and, that feels good to pass love on. And then I say, guide me and let me follow the guidance. So sometimes there's things that I want to do that aren't necessarily the best thing for me, but I can somehow make a connection with life. And I just ask that it, you know, correct me if I'm doing things that, you know, aren't the best for me. I won't go into what those are, but I do find that it works. Sometimes I'm going to do something and I know that it's not really going to support my health in the best way. And then somehow that little voice just kicks in, that your gut voice, which is, the intelligence of life, that just, it's a different type of, I used to be, guided by my head. I was a
Mhm.
runner for years. I blew out my knee in a marathon, and sometimes I'd have knee pain, and I'd say, okay, I'm just going to take some Aleve and wait 30 minutes, and then I'll go out and run on my knee, which of course wasn't better because I took the Aleve. But that's how your thinking gets in the way. But then you have this nice gut voice that speaks more calmly and intuitively, and it just says, that's not the right thing to do. So anyway, that's what I say every morning. And honestly, it makes a big difference to me how my day goes. If sometimes I'm traveling and I don't get a chance to, and then there's a part of it where I just sit quietly and, I don't know, I might meditate briefly or something like that. If I don't do those things, if I'm somewhere, if I get swept into my day, sometimes I just feel like I'm a little bit untethered.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Yeah,
those are all
yeah,
things. Yeah.
yeah. Wow, Freya, you have a lot. And in the sense that through your obstacles and hurdles in life, you would have not been the person you are today, like you were saying, if it wasn't that. And I think the problem, as we are both fellow practitioners in functional health, is like you said, we're so bio-individual and we are like walking chapters in a book.
Yeah.
So the book that you read on XYZ is going to be different than this book about something else that is another person. And you have to treat them with layering off, peeling off those layers of an onion with the years of whatever they have been through, which I just wish more people can understand, that instead of the going to the doctor, he's going to give me a pill. Hopefully that'll make a miracle will happen and then I'll feel better, which is so not true. But I wanted to ask you regarding the spiritual side,
Yeah.
because for me, I grew up with a mother that figured out numerologically. I was a C-section, so she figured I want my daughter born on December 6th. So I'm a
Mm.
Path of Life 3, which is really just loves meeting people and just adventurous. And so I always was in the spiritual world. But I know what you were saying, how I'm so tapped into Mother Nature and I'm so passionate about us trying to preserve and connect. Because the more you can connect with Mother Earth, the more you can tap into your intuitiveness to be able to listen to your inner voice. And so when you went through this near death experience, did you see after going through that you are really connected with spirit and you are so connected with listening more to your inner voice and creating that heightened intuitiveness? Because
Yeah, I mean,
that's
100%. I started to just notice nature. Like I always liked walking in the woods or whatever, but now I notice so much and I feel like I observe and learn from it. It's just so wonderful. I mean, that connection with nature, it basically is the same. It's just you're connecting with a outward, an outward version of it rather and an inward version. It's all the same to me. It all is that wonderful kind of intelligence of life or, spirituality and connectedness. And I just feel, as I said, that mankind has somehow had a massive disconnect with this, modern civilization. I mean, there's still some, tribes and so forth. And I think part of the problem was that we did start to believe that we were somehow above nature, that we were smarter than other creatures. I remember going to school and them saying, oh, you can't, animals have no emotions, you can't, that's, I forget what they were, anthropomorphic or whatever, you can't give animals human emotions. Well, I don't care what you call them, of course they have emotions. You see it all the time. Even trees, you start to, I mean, it's just so fascinating, the web of life and the connection of other species to each other, like trees, how they connect underground through the root systems and send messages, just like neurotransmitters in a way, and our body communicate, the trees communicate. It's just, I just feel like somehow, once again, there's that disconnect that we thought we were superior, but basically we just got cut off and we're just now learning again, relearning the immensity of how, of nature and the value of it. And I believe that in nature, we can find most of the remedies that we need actually to heal our bodies. Somehow or other, we started making chemicals and that, you know, and taking that path, that became our medicine, but those all have side effects. And the whole thing with food, like how the heck is it possible that a whole species just stopped eating what its body needs to be healthy and started eating all this other stuff? I just want to cry. I go to the grocery store and there's boxes upon boxes of, like, I mean, tasty cakes and snack foods, and you're looking at the cart and you're thinking, where is the food? And then you go in a pharmacy and the whole front by the cash register is candy, and once again, cakey things, and in the back is the pharmaceuticals. And people just, some people clearly get it, but masses of people just don't see it.
yeah, yeah.
It's
No,
sad. It's tragic. I mean, I do feel in some ways that it is, we're at a tipping point in terms of the health of the planet and the health of the life on the planet, including us. And basically it's because of humans and our arrogance in a way, and
yeah.
our loss of respect and, you know, guidance from
Mhm.
life.
Yeah. And that's why, uh, you know, I, I'm better with sharing and being really transparent, telling people that when I went through losing my mother, who it was just so spiritual, and we were connected on so many levels
Yeah.
to try to explain and unravel that. But I always felt like I was put on this planet to be a messenger, to like you, helping, empowering others to really spread the word of, we got to get back to this planet. This is what life is all about. We are at such a disconnect.
Yeah.
And somebody was just sharing with me, because we were talking about spirituality and numerology and horoscopes, which I really want to get to really learn a little bit more.
Right.
We're entering, I think 2024 is the age of Aquarius. So that's like new beginnings.
Yeah.
And right now we're in Pluto, which is, you just feel like everything is bubbling over. People are anybody that I talk to, they're at a crossroads with life, and they're just, it's getting where it's amped up like 10 decibels, and
Yes.
people are having these incredible awarenesses.
Yes.
And if anything, it just empowers others to really look at their life and saying, what do we need to do to get back to some sort of normalcy? And that is getting back to spirituality, getting back to who you are and listening to what your body needs. Because like
Yeah.
we said, the cleaner you eat, the more in tune you are with your body, and the more you feel so much better that you could
Yeah.
thrive. But I just love your story. It's just so powerful and amazing, because there are people out there that need to hear what you're saying, that need to know that if they're in a spiral downturn, and they're hitting the wall with multiple doctors not really giving them the answers they want,
Yeah.
such fight or flight, that they need to decompress and take those layers off to get to what is really going on, to the roots of the matter. So,
Yeah. And I believe ultimately it's hugely hopeful. I feel like a lot of people, same with me. I went to the doctor and I felt no hope. I felt almost, well, it wasn't even, I mean, it clearly was contempt at times the way I was treated. And, that's horrible. That doesn't help someone heal. And I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between like a deep healing and symptom suppression, but, healing's definitely the way to go. It's a lot of hard work, but it's hopeful, and the reward is you feel great, and it feels great to be, like you say, connected, however, spirituality to the earth, to the beauty of life.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think people are more accepting of it because of all that we've been through in this world over
Yeah.
the last couple of years. So people are reaching out for other things, and it's pretty powerful. It
Yeah.
really is. So if everybody heard the pitter patter, that's my Vishla. I think he's feeling my energy,
Yeah.
and the sun is starting to go down here on the East
Yeah.
Coast, and he's feeling that he sees the deer. So if you hear him barking, you'll
Okay.
know that's Finnegan. He's part of the show sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
He just left. But yeah, so I would love for you to share with everybody, how can everybody get in touch with you, if they want to reach out to work with you, have any questions? What is your website?
Okay. Yeah. My website is bio dash logicnutrition.com. That's all one word, Logic Nutrition. And my email address. Do people give you email addresses or just the website? Okay. It's
Yeah.
salad, SALAD 0247 at gmail.com. Yeah. So
And are you have offering any packages for the new year, anything that you want to share?
yeah,
Uh,
I am offering packages for the new year, and it's a 7-week program, basically, anti-inflammatory diet, but you'll see lots of benefits. Inflammation goes down, sleep better, usually, clothes fit better, mental clarity, things like that. And I do offer some programs at Building 7 Yoga in Wyomissing, and I think I'll be offering a program there again in January, and that's called Mind Body Renewal.
oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
And wow, so there's so many other questions. I need to have you on again, because it's really fascinating. And it's really the fact that we've noticed, just from what you have shared with us, that there are no quick fixes in life, that this has been a long journey. And you have
Yeah.
to information to unravel illness when dealing with a lot that you have gone through.
Yeah,
So,
it is. Definitely a lot of, pain and, but so worth it. So worth it. I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't have it any other way.
well, I want to thank you for being here today. I know this was something we've been trying to get on the schedule for a while now. Freya and I are local here in the Berks County area, and she does amazing work. So thank you again.
Yeah, sure.
And
Thanks for having me. It was
yeah,
fun.
absolutely. And if everybody, the viewers and listeners today that are listening, if you're enjoying my podcast, please, if you want to show some love, subscribe, listen to some of the shows, and if you want to rate and review. And also, I just want to thank everybody who has written such wonderful reviews. A lot of my guests just saying that they really enjoyed their conversations and the questions that I asked today. And going forward, having people on reviewing. So thanks again, Freya. I will
Okay.
see
Thank
you
you,
around,
Leslie.
and thank you, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.